Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to day 15 of our 15 days free training program on Python for AI. In the previous classes, we've already understood the basics of Python, and then we got to learn about the flow control statements in Python. So, the three types of flow control statements are conditional statements or selection or branching statements. So, in this, we've learned about simple if else, if else. And also, we've learned about the nested if and if else conditions. And then we got to learn about the loop or the looping statements. So, in this, we've learned about the for loop, and then we've also completed the while loop, and also we've learned about the infinite loop using the while loop, and also the nested loops. So, next, we were gonna learn about miscellaneous the flow control statements in Python, that is break, continue, and pass. So there were few examples remaining from yesterday's class, that is the nested loops. So we're gonna complete that first, and then let's cover the miscellaneous flow control statements along with the code. So firstly, here we have the nested loop, that is the for loop inside of the while loop. So firstly, the outer loop is the while loop and inner loop is the for loop. So what happens is first the outer loop runs, and for every iteration or for each iteration in the outer loop, the inner loop will run completely. As you know, for loop is used when we know the amount of iterations, and while loop is used when we do not know the amount of iterations. So we will be writing a condition here such that if this condition is true, the loop will be running. So first, for a loop, we need to have an initialization part. That is, here I, which is the variable, is initialized with a value 1. So I equal to 1. So initial value of I is 1 here. And then this I value will be checked inside of the outer loop. That is your while loop. So I less than equal to 5. So I less than equal to 5, that is 1 less than equal to 5. So is 1 less than equal to 5? Yeah, 1 is less than 5. So this condition will be true and we'll be entering the while loop. So while loop consists of these block of statements. So first, this these three print statements will be printed with value of I outer while loop equal to 1 because I is 1, right, in the first iteration. So it will be printed as value of I outer while loop equal to 1. Let's just run it and then we'll understand the code. So firstly, as you can see, so value of I outer while loop equals to 1 is written. So this is the first iteration of the outer loop. And for every iteration, the inner loop will run completely, right? So we have the inner loop for loop. In that, we are finding the j in range 1, comma 4. So when we have range start, comma stop value, so the values will be from the start value to stop minus 1 values. That is 1 to 4 minus 1, that is 3. So 1 to 3 means the j values will be 1, comma 2, comma 3. So when I equal to 1, j will be representing the value 1 and then 2 and then 3. So in this for loop, so when I equal to 1 in the outer loop, so inside of the inner loop, j value first will be representing 1. So that is why j value equal to 1, right? So value of j inner for loop equals to 1. So that is why here we got this line. And then it will move on to the next value for j because we have the range of values. So j will be equal to 2 right now. So j equals to 2. That is why we'll be again printing the statement, that is print function value of j inner for loop equals to, as j is representing 2 right now, so we will be printing j in the place of here, that is the curly braces. So value of j inner for loop equals to 2 will be written. And then j value will move on, as this is a iterable object, will move on to the next value, that is 3. So j is representing 3 right now. So print of value of j inner for loop equals to 3. So this is how the inner loop has been looped through each and every value of j. So j equals to 1, 2, and 3 are done. So as the values of inner loop are done, now again it will move on to the else loop for this for block. So as all the values of for loop are done completely and normally without any break statement, so else loop will be executed. Else block will be executed. So here print, the line will be printed and out of inner for loop. So as the for loop is done, uh, looping through each and every value, so we'll be writing out of inner for loop. So this will be written in the else block. So after completing this for else block, so the other statements will be printed, right? So that is why here I equal to I plus 1. This is our updation. So this is the updation of the outer while loop. That is, we are updating the I value. So we are given the updation part here. So I equal to I plus 1. So initially I is equal to 1, right? So now I equal to, so in this place you need to substitute this 1 and 1 plus 1 will be 2. So I value will be updated with the value 2. So now I will be 2. So after the first iteration, updation is done and 1 will change to 2 because of this updation. Now after this, again this value of I will be checked in the outer loop. That is the while loop. So I less than equal to 5. That is 2 less than equal to 5, right? So is 2 less than equal to 5? Yes, it is true. So 2 less than 5 is true. So that is why this condition will be true and we will be executing the block of statements inside the outer loop. That is the while loop. So first it will execute this print line and then value of I dash outer while loop equals to, we will be substituting the value of I in the place of curly braces and value of I outer while loop equals to 2 will be printed. So this part will be coming from these three print statements and we will be printing the I value. So now outer loop, we will represent the I with 2 and we will be going into the inner loop, that is for else loop. Then in this for else loop, we are checking the j values. So j is in the range of 1, comma 4 again. So 1, comma 4 means the values will be 1, 2 and 3, right? So j will be representing all these three values when it is looping in the for loop. So first j will represent value 1. So j is equal to 1. So now we will be printing val of j in a for loop equals to, the value of j will be given in this curly braces. That is j will be printed here due to the format function. So here value of j equals to, first it is representing 1, right? So value of j in a for loop equal to 1 is printed. Then it will, after executing it, it will again go on to loop and j will be representing the value of 2. So now j is equals to 2. So that will be printing value of j in a for loop equals to j. That is 2, right? So value of j in a for loop equals to 2 will be printed. And then after printing the statement, it will again go on to loop here. That is the j value. So j will represent the next value 3 right now. So j equals to 3. So print val of j in a for loop equals to the j value, that is 3, and val of j in a for loop equals to 3 will be printed. So here, as we are done with all the three values from j, that is 1, 2, 3, these are done, right? All three are done. So as this is done without any break statement, now the else block will be printed. That is the line and out of inner for loop. As we've completed the inner for loop, we'll be writing out of inner for loop. And then we will be updating. So after completing this inner loop, we'll be printing other statements in the block. So here we have I equal to I plus 1. So this is the updation part. This is the outer while loop updation part, that is for the I. So now I will be equals to, so we'll substitute I value here, and 2 plus 1 will be 3, and that 3 will be updated to the value of I, that is on the left hand side. So now I will be equals to the value 3. So we are done with 2 iterations till now. So after updating I, we will again move on to the outer loop and we will check the condition. So that is 3 less than equal to 5 or not. So 3 is less than 5, right? So that is true. So as this condition is true, we will be printing these block of statements inside of this while loop. So first, these three print statements will be printed. That is line val of I, outer while loop equals to the value of I, that is 3, right? So that 3 will be printed here. And so here, if you see the val of I, outer while loop 3, these three print statements are printing this part. And then we will move on to the inner loop, that is for else loop. So for j in range 1 comma 4. So again, the values of j are in the range of 1 comma 4. So the values will be 1, 2, and 3. So 4 will be excluded and will be taking only values before 4 only. So 1, 2, 3. So now j first it will represent 1. That is the first value in the loop. Now it will print value of j in a for loop equals to the j value, which is 1. So it will print here. That is why we will be getting this line. That is val of j in a for loop equals to 1. And then j will move on. So after executing the print statement, it will again go on to loop and j will be pointing to 2 right now. So j value will be equals to 2 because range is a iterable object and j is 2. So now that after getting the j value as 2, we'll be printing the statement again. That is val of j in a for loop equals to 2. So that is why we got this line. And then j will move on to point to 3. So now j value equals to 3. And then after looping for the third time, so it will print value of j in a for loop equals to 3. So this line will be printed due to that. And as the for loop has been completed without any break statements, so what happens now? Now the else block will be printed inside of this for else loop. That is a line and out of inner for loop. As we are done with all the values in j, that is 1, 2, 3, we are out of inner for loop. So these statements will be printed. And then after completing this loop, if there are any other statements, we'll print that. That is or we'll execute the other statements. That is I equal to I plus 1. So this is the outer while loop updation again. That is the updation of I. So now the I value is 3, right? So 3 plus 1 equals to 4. So this 4 will be assigned to the I value on the left hand side, that is I. So now 3 will be updated to 4. So after 3 updations, the I value completed 1, 2, and 3 values iterations, and now it is updated to 4. So in the same way, how these have worked, the 4 value also will be printed. That is value of I outer while loop equal to 4. And then it will move on to the inner for else loop. And the J value will be iterated through 1, 2, and 3. So that is why we will be getting the value of J inner for loop equal to 1, 2, and 3. And then after completing this for loop, as this is executed normally without any break statement, else block also will be printed. That is the line out of inner for loop. That is these statements. So after that, so what happens is we have a updation part again. So now, I value is 4, right? So 4 plus 1 equal to 5, right? So 5 value will be assigned to the left hand side, that is I. So I will be updated to 5. So after updating to 5, it will again check the condition, that is I less than equal to 5. So is 5 less than equal to 5? Yes, 5 is equal to 5 will be true, right? So as the condition is true, it will again move on to the statements inside of this while loop. And it will be printing us the value of I while loop, outer while loop equal to 5. So these three statements will come from these three print statements. And then it will move on to the inner loop, for else loop, and J in range of 1 comma 4. So J will be equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3. And first J will represent 1. So J value will be 1, right? So after J value is 1, we'll be printing value of J inner for loop 1. So that's why we'll get this line. And then J will be representing 2 for the next loop. And this will be printed. And for the next iteration, J will be representing 3. And that is why value of J inner for loop equals to 3 will be printed because of this first statement, this print statement. So as all the values are done in J, so what happens now is as the for loop been run normally without any breakage, else will be printed, else block. So this line and out of inner for loop will be printed. So after this, we have the updation rule, right? So we are updating the I value. So now 5 plus 1. So I value is 5, right? So this part is 5 plus 1 will be 6. So 6 value will be assigned to I. So now I will be updated with the value 6. Now after this updation, it will again move on to check the condition. That is I less than equal to 5. So now we'll be checking the condition I less than equal to 5. That is 6. I is equal to 6, right? So 6 less than equal to 5. So is 6 less than equal to 5? No, right? So this condition will be false. So as this condition is false and the loop has been completed normally, as the while loop has been completed normally without any break statements, the else block will be printed. So the else block is here. So it will print a line and it says out of outer while loop. So that is why we got these statements here. So this is how the for loop inside of while loop is done. Now let's move on to the next nested loop, that is while in while. So first, while statements or the while loops are used when we do not know the number of iterations exactly. So here we'll be writing the condition. So these are also very similar to the before loops we've used. So first we have the initialization part. So we have the initialization part I equal to 1, and first the I value is equals to 1. And then we have the while loop, that is the outer loop. So here we have the condition for the while loop, I less than equal to 5. So this condition will be checking first. So I less than equal to 5, that is 1 less than equals to 5. So as 1 less than 5 will be true, this condition will be true. And as this condition part is true, we'll be executing the block of statements inside of this while loop. So first, they'll be printing these three print statements. So value of I outer while loop will be equals to 1 because I equals to 1. So they'll be printing these three statements. And then here we have the J initialization part as well. So the in the while loops, to avoid having infinite loops, we will be having three parts, right? The initialization, condition, and updation. So we need to remember that when we are writing a while loop. So these three parts are very important to avoid the situations of infinite loop. So that is why here I have the initialization part of the inner while else loop. So inner while loop, we have the initialization, condition, and also the updation part here. And for the outer while loop, we have the initialization here and the condition here and the updation inside of this while block. So these three are the main parts of a while loop. And here we have initialized the j value with j equals to 1. So now j value will be 1. Now we have a condition j less than equals to 3. So j less than equals to 3, that is 1 less than equals to 3 is the condition here. So is 1 less than equal to 3? Yes, that is true. So as this condition is true, it will be executing the block of statements inside of this while block. So here, first this print statement will be printed, that is val of j inner while loop equals to the value of j, that is 1. So that will be printed, that is this line. And then we have the updation part to not have the infinite loop. So we are updating the j value with j plus 1. So initially j was the value 1. So 1 plus 1 will be 2. And this 2 is assigned to the LHS, that is j. So this updation will change the value of j to 2. So now j will be changed from 1 to 2 value. And then after the updation, we'll again check the condition in the inner while loop. So j value less than equal to 3, right? So we'll check now. J, that is 2 less than equal to 3. So 2 is less than 3. So the condition is also true. Now we'll again execute these block of statements. That is print value of j in a while loop is equals to, due to the format function, we will be substituting this j value in the place of curly braces. So here, that is value of j inner while loop equals to 2. And then we have the updation part again, that is j equal to j plus 1. So now j value is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. And this 3 will be assigned to the value on the LHS, that is j. So now j is updated with the value 3. Now again, after the updation part, we will check the condition. So now when we check the condition, j less than equals to 3 value is there. So j less than 3 means 3 less than equal to 3. So 3 is equal to 3 will be true, right? So the condition is true. So as the condition is true, we'll be executing these two statements again. That is, we'll print value of j in a while loop equal to 3. So that is why we'll get this line. And then after printing this, we'll again update the j. That is j equal to j plus 1. So j plus 1 means 3. J value is 3 right now. So 3 plus 1 will be 4. So j value now is 4. So now after updation, we'll again check the condition in the inner while loop. So inner while loop is j less than equal to 3. That is 4 less than equal to 3. Is 4 less than equal to 3? No, it is not. So that is false. So as the condition is false and we are done with the while loop without any break statements. Now what happens is we'll move on to the else block. So else block will be executed. That is, it will print these two statements, the line and out of inner while loop. So this and this will be printed. So till here, the inner loop will be done. And after completing the inner while loop, we will move on to the other statements in the block, that is I equal to I plus 1. So this is the updation part of the outer while loop, such that I will move on to next values, right? So here we have the updation part of I. So initially I is equals to 1. Now 1 plus 1 will be 2. And this 2 will be assigned to the I value on the left hand side here. And now I will be updated to 2. So now after updating I, it will again move on to the condition part and it will check the condition. So now 2 less than equals to 5 will be checked. So is 2 less than equals to 5? Yes, 2 is less than 5. So that is why the condition part will become true and it will be executing all the statements which we have done in the first iteration. So in the second iteration, I value will be 2 and it will move on through all these statements. So first, it will be printing these three values, that is three print statements, that is line, val of I, outer while loop equals to 2, and then again line. So it will print us these three statements. And then it will move on to the inner while loop. So inner while loop will have a initialization part first. So j will again be 1 now. So this is the initialization part of j. And then it will check the test condition inside of this while loop. That is j less than equal to 3. 1 less than equals to 3. So 1 less than 3 will be true. So as this condition is true, we will be executing the statements inside of this while block. So first we'll print val of j in a while loop equals to the j value which is 1. So in the place of curly braces, we'll be printing j. So val of j equals to inner while loop equals to 1 will be printed. And then we are updating the j value equals to j plus 1. So 1 plus 1 will be 2, right? So as that is 2, this 2 will be assigned to the j on the left hand side, that is here. So now j will be the value 2. So after the updation part, we'll again check the test condition. So j is 2 right now. And we will check the test condition of j, that is j less than equals to 3. So that 2 is less than 3 will be true. So as the condition is true, we'll again be printing or executing these statements here. That is, first we have a print statement val of j inner while loop equals to the value of j, that is 2. So val of j inner while loop equals to 2 will be printed. And then we have the updation part of j, that is j equal to j plus 1. So now 2 plus 1 will be 3. And this 3 will be updated to j. So j, now it is the value of 3. So after updating j value, we'll again check the test condition. That is j less than equal to 3. So j is now 3, right? And we'll be checking the condition 3 less than equal to 3 is true. Because 3 equals to 3, that is true, right? So as the condition is true, we'll again print these statements and we'll print val of j inner while loop equals to the j value in the place of curly braces, that is here. And we'll print val of j inner while loop equals to 3. And then we'll again update the j part. That is 3 plus 1 equals to 4. So 4 will be updated to the value on the left hand side, that is j. So now j will be updated to 4. So as the updation is done, we'll be again checking the condition in the while part. That is here. We'll check the condition in the inner while loop. And the condition will be 4 less than equal to 3. So is 4 less than equal to 3? No, it is not. So that will be a false case. And 4 less than 3 equal to 3 will be false. So as this is false, the test condition is false. So will not be executing the statements inside of this while loop, and we'll move on to the else loop because the while loop has been done completely without any break. So else block will be executed. That is, we'll be executing these both statements. First, we'll print a line and then we'll print out of inner while loop. So we are done with all the values in the inner loop, right? So we'll print out of inner while loop, that is till here. After second iteration, it will be printed till here. From here to here, the statements are printed. And then after completing this, we have the updation part of the outer loop or the outer while loop. So we are updating the value of I. So after the second iteration, it was 2, right? So now 2 plus 1 will be 3. So this 3 will be updated to the left hand side, that is I. So 2 will be updated to 3. Now the I value is equals to 3. And again, we'll be checking the condition and we'll be executing the statements inside of this while block. And the same thing will be happening for third, fourth, and fifth iterations, same as the first and second iterations. So first they'll be checking 3 less than equal to 5. So as this is true, we'll be executing all these statements and we'll also execute the inner loop, that is inner while loop. So if you see here, same as the first and second iterations, first we have the value of I, outer while loop equals to 3. Then j will be iterated through the values 1, 2, 3, and we'll be printing all of them. And the j value will be updated for each iteration in the inner loop. And after that, after completing this while, we'll be printing the else block, that is out of inner while loop, as we are done with the third iteration, that is here to here. So as we are done with the third iteration, we will move on and we will update the value of I. So I value will be equals to, now it is 3, right? So 3 plus 1 will be 4. So 4 will be updated to the value of I on the left hand side. So 3 will be updated to 4. So now after updating I value, will be checking the condition again in the outer loop. So what's the condition is 4 less than equal to 5. So is 4 less than equal to 5? Yes, it is true. So 4 less than 5 will be true. So as the condition is true, we'll be executing all the statements again and we'll be first printing these statements, that is value of I outer while loop equal to 4. So here to here, the three statements will be printed and then we will initialize the j value for the inner while loop and we will loop through the j values 1, 2, and 3. So when j value is 1, the value of j inner while loop equals to 1, value of j inner while loop equals to 2, and then 3. So these three will be printed. And after completing, and j will be updated to 4, right? And the condition will be checked here. So 4 less than equal to 3. So this will be false because 4 is greater than 3. So as the condition became false, we will move on to the else block because the while loop has been done normally without any break statement. And we'll be printing these statements. So that is the line and out of inner while loop. And after completing this, so the fourth iteration is from here to here. This is the fourth iteration. And after the fourth iteration, we have the other statements in the outer loop and I will be updated. So here I was 4 and it will be updated to 5 because I plus 1. So 4 plus 1 is 5. And after completing that, the fifth iteration will also be done same as the first 4 iterations. So here, this part will be the fifth iteration for us. So value of I outer while loop equal to 5 and then j will be iterated through 1, 2, 3 values. And after completing the while loop here, it will move on to the else loop and it will print these both statements. And after that, what happens is, so I is 5, right? After the fifth iteration, during the fifth iteration, I is 5. So after the iterations completed in the inner loop, so the other statements will be executed. So I equal to I plus 1. This is the updation of outer loop. So I equal to I plus 1 means 5 plus 1 will be 6. So 6 will be updated to I. So now I will be the value 6. So after updating I, we'll again check the outer while loop condition. That is I less than equal to 5. So 6 less than equal to 5 will be checked. So is 6 less than equal to 5? False. So this condition is false right now because 6 is greater than 5 and not less than or equal to 5. So that is why, as the condition is false, we'll move on to the else block. And why we'll move on to the else block is because all the statements for all the iterations have been done normally and they're completed without any break statement in between. So as there is no break statement, the else block will be printed or executed now. That is, we have two print statements, a line and outer while loop. So that is why these two statements will be printed from the outer while loop else block. So this is how iterate through nested while loops inside a while loop. And then moving on, we have the multiplication tables for list of values. So what we can do is when we want the multiplication tables for multiple numbers at once, we can use this program. So what this program does is, so initially it will ask the user to enter how many values you want to enter. So let's say I want four values to enter. The first value is 5, second value is 6, third value is 7, fourth value is 8. So here if you see the numbers, firstly they are taken from the user. So first it asks how many numbers I want to enter, and then it will take all the four numbers as I've given four. So it will take the numbers and it will store these numbers inside of a list. So these are like the list of elements inside of a list. And then what happens here is the outer loop will pick the each number. Like the outer loop will pick 5 in the first iteration, 6 in the second iteration, 7 in the eighth iteration, third iteration, and 8 in the fourth iteration. So this is the first iteration, second, third, and fourth. If we have more numbers, they'll be taken one by one. So in the outer loop, we'll take each number, and what inner loop will do is inner loop will print this number's multiplication. So first outer loop will take 5. Let's say it took 5, and when the outer loop will take the value of 5, so inner loop will do the multiplication. That is, it will take range of values from 1 to 10 and it will multiply this value with each number in the range of 1 to 10. And then it will print the multiplication of table of 5. And then after completing 5, the outer loop will pick the next number, that is 6. And inner loop will print the multiplication table of 6. In the same way, it will print values or the multiplication tables of each and every number in your list. So now let's understand the code. So first, as a user, we need to give the input, that is enter how many values you want to enter. So this input prompt will be given and the input I've given as 4. So initially the input function will take the value as a string and this string will be converted into the integer value using the typecasting technique, that is int. So this 4 integer value will be given to the value n. So this is my n value. So n is equal to 4 because I've given 4, n is equal to 4. And then first there will be the validation check of this n value. So the count of numbers can't be negative or 0, right? So that is why first it will validate my n value. So if condition, we have the if else block. So in the if else block, first the condition is checked as n less than equal to 0. So n is the value of 4 and 4 less than equal to 0. So is 4 less than equal to 0? No, right? It is false. So as this condition is false, this print statement won't be executed and directly it will move on to the else block. So the all the statements in the else block will be executed one by one. So we are done with the validation now and we'll move on to the multiplication tables printing. So this is our else block. And so here first in the else block, we'll create an empty list. So we need to take the numbers into a list, right? So all the four numbers. So first we'll create an empty list using the list parenthesis and this will create an empty list LST. So this is my list LST and here we have the for else loop. So the for loop will take my values one by one. All the four values, the for else loop will be taking one by one. So for I is the control variable or the loop variable here in range 1 comma n plus 1. So 1 comma our n value is 4, right? So 4 plus 1 will be 5. So the range of 1 comma 5 will be the values 1 to the number before 5. That is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the range of values will be 1, 2, 3, and 4 because the range of 1 comma 5 will be that. And I will be taking first it will be representing the value 1. So I will be 1 in the first iteration here and the value or the val variable will take the input from the user again. So enter I value, that is first value. So enter one value will be printed and it will take the input and convert it into the integer value using the typecasting technique int. And I've given 5. So this 5 will be taken by the for loop and the val will be equals to 5 in the first iteration here. And this val value will be appended or added to the list, empty list using the dot append function. And instead of this dot append parenthesis, we'll be giving the val variable. So val consists of 5. So this 5 will be appended to the empty list that is here. So 5 will be appended here and then the first iteration is done. Now we'll move on to the second iteration. So the range values are 1, 2, 3, 4. So first I will be representing 1. The first iteration is over. After the first iteration, 5 is appended into the empty list. Now I will be representing the next value in the second iteration, that is 2. So I is equal to 2 right now. So what it will print is, it will take the val variable that is enter I value. So I will be printed in the place of here, that is enter 2 value, that is the second value. So enter 2 value prompt will be given using this input function and it will take the input from the user and it will convert it into the integer data type using the typecasting technique. So I've given the value 6. So this input will take a 6 string and it will convert it into the integer value 6 and this 6 value will be assigned to the val variable. Now val consists of 6 and this val will be appended into my list LST using the dot append function again. So this 6 value will be added to my list here. So after the second iteration, we have the list values 5 comma 6. So 6 is appended now. Now moving on, the I value will move on to the value 3 and it will represent 3. So I value is 3 and the inner statements will be executed. So enter I value, that is 3 value enter 3 value prompt will be printed, and the user will enter a value, that is I've entered 7 here. So this 7 value initially taken as string will be converted into integer, and this integer value will be given to the val variable. So now val variable will be equals to 7. So now we are appending this value of 7, which is assigned to val variable, to the list LST using the dot append function. So this value will be appended to the list LST, that is here. So 7 will be added to my list. So after the third iteration, 7 is also 7, that is the third value, is appended into the list. And then moving on, it will again, after completing execution, it will move on to the loop again. So for loop, I will be representing 4 value now. So I is equal to 4. So here enter 4 value, prompt will be given for the user to enter the value. So it will enter the, so user will enter some value, and as I've entered 8, so this 8 value will be assigned to the variable on the left hand side, that is val. So now val is equal to 8. So after this, we are appending this val variable, that is 8, into the list using the dot append function. So now this will be added into my list of numbers. So after this, we are done with all the values in the range, right? So I represented 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are no more values here. So that is why the loop will be done. And as the loop has been completed normally and without any interruption using the break statement, it will move on to the else block. So now it will move on to the else block, and it will print all the statements inside of the else block. So right now our list consists of the values 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? So this is my list. And here if you see print statement list of elements, we are printing LST, that is the variable for the list, in the place of this curly braces. So we'll get list of elements equals to 5, 6, 7, 8, which is in a list format. And then we'll be printing a line to differentiate this. Now we'll go on to the logic of multiplication tables. So here we have 2 loops again. So this part, from this for loop to this for loop. So this is the outer for loop, and we have an inner for loop here. So what outer for loop does is, it will take each element from your list, that is 5 once in the first iteration, 6 in the second iteration, 7 in the third iteration, and 8 in the fourth iteration. And the inner loop, what it does is, it will take the values from 1 to 10, and it will multiply. If we take 5, it will multiply 5 with 1, and 5 ones are 1, 5 twos are 10. And in this way, it will iterate till 10, and it will give the multiplication table of 5. And then it will move on to 6 in the second iteration, and it will do the same. So the outer loop will pick the number from the list, and inner loop will do the multiplication part and print it. So that's what happening here. So first, the list. So LST is our list of elements. That is 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this is my list, and we are taking some variable n. To just iterate through this, we are taking that value. So n in LST means first n will point to the value 5, because this is a for loop. So we'll iterate through the list. So first my n value will be equal to 5, because that is the first value. And we'll validate this n value first. So if n less than equal to 0, that is 5 less than equal to 0, condition will be checked. Because if your value is the negative or zero, you cannot neatly give the multiplication table, right? So you need a positive number. So to check the positive number, n less than equal to 5 will be checked. So as 5 less than equal to 0 is false. So this is validated as a positive number. So we need to validate the number as a positive number. So we checked here. So as this condition is false, this statement will not be printed and it will directly move on to the else block because the condition was false. So now, so remember that n value is equal to 5 right now because the outer loop started the looping and in the first iteration, the outer loop picked n equal to 5. That is the first value. Now we'll move on to the else block here inside of this if condition. So this consists of the statements still here. So first we have a print statement to print a line, and then we have multiplication table for the value n. So value of n is 5. So 5 will be printed in the place of curly braces here due to the format dot format function, and multiplication table of 5 will be printed. And again, to neatly have a heading, we have a one more line, and this line also will be printed. So we have the heading for the multiplication table for 5. So now we will move on to the inner for loop. So this inner for loop will print the multiplication table for us. So for I, so here I is the loop variable here. So I doesn't mean any stored value. It will this I value will iterate through this range. So for I in range 1, comma 11 means the values will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1, comma 11 means we need to take values from 1 to 11 minus 1. That is the top value or the end value minus 1. So that's why we have the values in the range 1 to till 10 we will be getting. So first I will represent 1. So when I will be 1, so print tab space. So we got a tab space here, and the n value will be printed in the first curly braces, and I value will be printed in the second curly braces, and n into I value will be printed in the third curly braces here. So first, here we have I, n into I, right? So first n value is 5. So n value is 5, so 5 will be printed. Into value, that is the x value will be printed, and now we'll be printing the value of I in the second curly braces, that is I equal to 1 initially. So I equal to 1 will be printed. So that is equal to the value n into I will be printed in the third curly braces. N into I means 5 into 1. So 5 into 1 is 5, right? So 5 will be printed here. So after completing this, it will again loop to the next value. So first, I represented 1. Now, in this range of 1, comma 11, the next value is 2. So, I will be representing 2 right now. So, I value is equals to 2. And we'll again print the tab space, the value of n, that is 5. So, 5 will be printed into the value of I, that is 2 here, will be printed here. That will be equal to n into I. So, n into I means 5 into 2. So, that value will be 10. So, 10 will be printed here. So, in the same way, it will be iterating. The I value will be iterating through this range of values. So, it will print 5 into 3 equal to 15. And I will be presenting 4, and it will print 5 into 4 equal to 20. And then I will move on to the value 5, and it will print 5 into 5 equal to 25. Then I equal to 6. So n value 5 into I value 6 equal to 30 n into I. And then 7, 5 sevens are 35. Then 8, 5 eights are 40. And then 9, 5 nines are 45. And then 10, 5 tens are 50. So we are done with all the values for multiplication in the multiplication table of 5. So our n value equal to 5, and I has been iterated from 1 to 10 values. And it gave us the multiplication of multiplication table of 5. So after completing this for loop, so as the loop hasn't been broken anywhere and it's been executed normally, so the else block for this inner for loop will be printed and it will print a line for us. So this line will be printed, and then after completing this, again it will move on to the outer for loop. So after completing the inner statements, it will move on to the next for, again it will move on to the outer for loop, and the list consists of 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So n is first, it pointed to 5. So 5, that iteration, first iteration is done. Now it will move on to the second iteration. So 5 value, sorry, n value will be 6. So outer loop picked the n value equal to 6, and then we'll validate the input again, that is the 6 value, if it is positive number or not. So as 6 less than equal to 0 will be false. So this condition will be false and it will be printing the else block for this if loop. So it will print all the statements inside of this else block. So n is 6 and it will print these three print statements. Multiplication table of 6 will be printed. So it will print here. So after printing these three print statements, it will go to the inner loop. So this is the inner for loop, and this for loop will give me the multiplication table of 6, right? So for I, that is the control variable in the range of 1, comma 11. So 1 to values till 10 it will be taking. So these are all the I values for me. So first it will print 6 into 1. So n value, I value, n into I value will be taken. So 6 into 1 equal to 6 because n into I value. So it will print this, and then n equal to 6, then I will move on to the value 2. So I equal to 2 now. 6 into 2 equal to 12 because 6 2 is a 12. And then I will move on to the value 3 and it will print 6 3. 6 3 is a 18. And then 6 4 is a 24, 6 5 is a 30, 6 6 is a 36, 6 7 is a 42, 6 8 is a 48, 6 9 is a 54, 6 10 is a 60. So till 10, the I will be iterated and it will be printing all the values 6 into 10. So after completing that, as all the values have been exhausted in this inner for loop and they are executed without any break statements, so else block will be printed and it will print a line for me. So here this line will be printed, and as the all these statements in this for loop has been executed, it will move on to the for loop again and it will iterate. And in the third iteration, so after 5 6 7, so 5 and 6 are done. Now it will n will point to 7. And in the same way for 5 and 6 tables, how they are printed, the 7 also will go through the same validation first, and then multiplication table of 7, the heading will be printed, and then the I value will iterate from values 1 to 10, and it will print 7 ones are 7 to 7 10 the 70. So all the values will be printed using this, and as the for loop has been completed from first to last, so the else block will be printing a line. And again, as all the statements inside of this outer for loop are done, again it will move on to the main heading of for loop, that is for n in list LST. So it will iterate to the next value, that is 8, and n will be the value of 8 right now. So for 8 also we'll be printing, we'll be executing all these values and we'll print the multiplication table of 8. So that is how you will get all the values of, so all your values till 8 you will be getting. So if we try for another set of values, let's say, so I'll give three values. So 10, 20, 30. So if you see here, we have first it will take how many values I want to enter. So I want to enter three values. So it will take all the three values using a for loop here. So using a for loop, it will take three values and it will append all these three values into an empty list. So after appending into empty list, it will take this list as a iterable object inside of the outer loop or the outer for loop, and it will pick each element at once in the outer loop, that is 10 and then 20 and then 30. So in the first iteration, it will take the first value 10, and using the inner for loop, it will print the multiplication table of 10. And again, after completing these, it will go again to the outer loop and it will pick n value equal to 20 and it will print the multiplication table of 20 using the inner for loop. And in the same way, it will print for the third value till 30. So how many values you want to give, you can give and find the multiplication tables of all those values at once using this program. So using this nested list, you can find that. And then we have a program to read the list of values and find the sum and average of your value. Now we'll learn about the program to find the sum and average of list of values. So first let's run this and we'll understand about it. So first it will give me how many values you have. So let's say I have three values and I'll be entering 3, 4 and 5 values. So the values I've entered are taken as the contents of the list and they are taken as float values. So these float values, that is 3.0, 4.0 and 5.0. So the sum of these values is 3 plus 4 plus 5, that is 12. And then the average is the sum divided by 3, that is 12 by 3, that is 4. So all these are in a float values such that will not lose any data. So first user enters the n values and these values are stored inside of a list. And that using that list, we will find the sum of the values. So the loop will calculate the sum and then the average also will be calculated using the formula sum by total number of elements. So first, the number of values will be taken inside of the n variable. So the input will be taken as, so I've given 3, right? So 3, firstly it is taken as the string value and that will be converted into integer value using the int typecasting technique. And this 3 will be stored inside of the variable n. So n will be equals to 3 right now. So now first we will be validating if this n value is a positive value or not. So using the if condition, that is n less than equal to 0. So 3 less than equal to 0 will be checked and it will. So this condition 3 less than equal to 0, is it true or false? It is false. So 3 is not less than equal to 0, right? So this condition is false. So that is why this print statement won't be printed and it will directly move on to the else block. So now all the conditions in the else block will be taken dynamically. So all the lines will be executed one by one. So first we are creating an empty list. So to store our values, we need a list, right? So we created an empty list lst. So that is our empty list. And I am going to store all these three values inside of my empty list lst. So now we will append each and every value into our empty list using a for loop. Same as the before program, I'm just using a for loop to append my values into a empty list. So first, the list lst is a empty list and for I in range 1 comma n plus 1. So n is the value 3, right? So 1 comma 3 plus 1 is 4. So range of 1, 4 will give me values 1, 2, 3. Because 4 minus 1 is the end value, right? So till the value 3, the range of values will be taken. So 1, 2, 3. So I will be representing the values 1, 2, 3. And first, I will be representing value 1. So I is equal to 1. So the val variable will take the input of the first value, that is enter one value format. In the format we've given I, right? So enter one value because I equal to 1 will be printed. So that is enter the first value. So I've entered 3. So this 3 value, first it will be taken as a string using the input function, and that is typecasted into the float data type using the float typecasting technique, and it will change to 3.0, and this 3.0 will be saved into the val variable. So val will be equal to 3.0 here, and this val variable will be appended into the empty list LST. So LST is our empty list, and LST dot append of val will append my value 3.0 into the empty list here. So 3.0 will be appended by the first iteration when I equal to 1. So 3.0 is appended into the empty list. And then, so I equal to 1 is done. And now I will be representing 2. So I equal to 2, right? Now we'll take the input for val again. So the next value, that is enter the format we have I. So this I will be printed here, that is enter 2 value. So enter 2 value will give me, the user will give the value, that is 4. So 4, first it's taken as a string and it will be converted into the float data type using the float typecasting technique. And the val will be equals to 4.0. So now val will be equal to 4.0, and this is appended into the list LST using LST dot append of val. So using this command, we'll be appending this value into our empty list, initial empty list LST. So now 3.0 and 4.0 are the values inside of your list. Now we'll take the third value. So now I will be representing 3, right? 1 and 2 are done. Now I equal to 3. So as I equal to 3, the prompt will be given as enter I, that is here 3 value. So enter 3 value, and user will enter the third value, that is I've given 5. So this 5 initially it will taken as string due to the input function, and then it will be typecasted into the float value using the float typecasting technique. So the val will be equal to 5.0, right? So val equal to 5.0, and we are appending this val into the list using the dot append function, and 5.0 will be appended into the list LST. So now my list consists of the values 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0. So those are the 3 values I have. Now, as the for loop has been done without any break statement, the else block will be executed, right? So here we have the else block, and as the for loop has been done normally without any break, else block will be executed. So till now, our list value is equal to 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0. And first we have print statements, 3 print statements, that is a line, contents of list will be printed, and then a line. So to have a differentiation of the contents, we have given in this way. You can just print it as you wish. So contents of list will be printing dot format LST. So LST consists of our list, right? With the float values 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0. So that will be printed in the place of curly braces here. That is contents of list is equal to the list LST. Now we are trying to find the sum of average, sum and average. So initially we will take the sum is equal to 0. That is here the variable s is the sum here, and we are initializing it with 0. So using the loop, we are trying to find the sum. So what we are doing here is s equal to 0 is the initialization, and then we are using a for loop. So for loop val. So val is the control statement, control variable here, and in the list LST. So val will be pointing to your contents of LST list, that is 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0. First, the val will be equal to 3.0. So it will print the tab space as we used slash t. Tab space will be printed, and in the place of curly braces, the value will be printed. So value is representing 3.0 right now, right? So 3.0 will be printed. And after printing that, s will be equal to s plus val. So what happens here is, so s is your variable on the left hand side, keep it that way. And your value s equals to initially 0. So 0 plus your value right now, that is 3.0, will be added. So that will be equal to 3.0. So your s value, which is initially 0, will be updated to 3.0 right now. So this is the first iteration. So after the first iteration, so 3.0 is printed and it is added to sum. So first iteration is done. Now val will represent 4.0 in the second iteration, right? So value equal to 4.0 now. So for val in list, so this will iterate and the value will be equal to 4.0 and print the tab space and then the value. Okay, the tab space and value is printed. That is the 4.0. Now this 4.0 is again added to the sum. So S, which is the sum, is updated with S plus value. So now S equal to 3.0. After the first iteration, it is updated to 3.0, right? Plus val equal to 4.0. That will give me 7.0. So this 7.0 is updated or assigned to the value on the left-hand side, that is S. So S is updated with 7.0 right now. So after the second iteration, the S value is 7.0 and the value has been 4.0. So now the third iteration. Again, after completing all statements, it will go to the for loop, right? So now val will be representing the third value and val equal to 5.0. So now it will print tab space and then it will be printing the val, that is 5.0. So 5.0 will be printed and now the s equal to s plus val, that will be s value will be updated. That is s equal to, that is the left hand side. So we'll be assigning to left hand side only. So don't put the s value 7.0 onto the left hand side. So keep it as a variable only and substitute the values in the right hand side. That is s plus val, right? So s, now we have 7.0 plus the value equal to 5.0. So 5.0 is taken here and the value will be 12.0. So now the S value is updated to 12.0. So S is the sum and we are done with all the elements in the list, right? So there are no more elements in the list. So we are done with the for loop. So we are done with the for loop neatly as we've completed all the elements without any break. So now the else block will be printed. So till now the S value is 12.0, which is the sum. So let's just update it neatly. So S is equal to 12.0 till now. Now, as the for loop has been done completely without any break, else block will be printed or executed. So we have the print statements, a line, and this line is printed, and then sum is equal to curly braces enclosed in a string dot format of S. So S will be printed in the place of this curly braces. So S is equal to 12.0, right? So sum equal to 12.0 will be printed. Now we are calculating the average of here. So average equal to, this is the format specifier. So when you give percentile 0.3 F, so basically if when you want to print using format specifiers in a specific value, you need to give percentile F. So percentile f, by default, it will give me 6 decimal places. So if I want only 2 decimal places, I can give 0.2 percentile 0.2f. If I want 3 places, I can give percentile 0.3f. So this is how I can specify how I want to print my float value. So here I've given percentile 0.3f. That is, it will give me with the 3 decimal places after the point. That is, as you can see, 3 I've got here. So in the place of percentile 0.3f, my average should be printed. So this is the formula of the average here. So after enclosing our printing statement in the string, we need to give percentile, and inside of this percentile, what value will be giving. So that value will be printed in the place of percentile 0.3f here. So we have the value s by length of LST. So S means the sum, that is 12.0, right? By length of LST means length will give me the number of elements in the list LST. So we have 1, 2, 3. So by 3 it will take, and as it is a division operator, it will always give me the float value as an output. So as the output is float value, we'll be getting, basically we need to get 4.0, but we've mentioned 0.3f, right? So 3 decimal places, that is after point 3 decimal places, 4.000. So average will be equal to 4.000, and we are done here, and a line will be printed. So in this way, you can find the sum and average of a list of elements. So let's say, so let's take other values and try to print that. So I have 4 values. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the sum of the values, first the values, the number of values will be taken, and using the for loop, where user can give the 4 values, which for which he wants the sum and average. And using the for loop, it will take the values 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it will store these values inside of a list. Using the append function, it will store it inside of a list, and it will print the contents of the list. And after that, it will use a loop again, that is a for loop, and it will find the sum of these contents of the list. So it will print the value and it will add to the sum variable, and it will print the value and it will add to the sum variable, and so on. By the end of the iterations, we'll get a sum. And then in the else block, we will be printing the sum, that is 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is 14.5. And the average will be equal to the sum divided by the number of elements, that is 4. 14 by 4 will be 3.5. So as I've given 0.3f, percentile 0.3f. So I need 3 decimal places after the point. So that is why 3.500 has been printed. So this way you can find the sum and average of some set of numbers using a list. Now we are done with nested loops. So let's learn about the miscellaneous flow control statements. So we've learned about the conditional statements and looping statements, right? So sometimes inside of loops, we need extra control over the flow of execution. So when we want extra control inside of these loops, we can use these miscellaneous flow control statements. That is the 3 statements: break, continue, and pass. So each of these will change the normal behavior of your loops or blocks. So these will change the behavior of the loops or blocks of code. So let's understand them one by one. So first, let's understand the break statement. So the break statement is used to terminate the loop immediately when a specific condition occurs. So based on a certain condition, or when specific condition occurs and it will become true, so it will terminate the execution part of the loop. That is, it will terminate the loop immediately. So in simple words, break is used to stop the loop completely. So the next iterations and the next statements won't be printed. So it will completely stop the loop and it will exit from that loop. So break is used to stop the loop completely. So once break is executed, the program will come out of the loop and it will continue with the next statement after the loop. So inside of loop, if there are any statements, they won't be printed or executed. It will directly come out of the loop. And if there are any other statements in your program other than that loop, so that will be printed. If there are none, they won't be printed. So imagine if you're searching a book inside of a shelf. So you'll check each book one by, right? So as soon as you find your correct book, you'll stop searching immediately. So you don't continue to check the remaining books in your shelf. So once you find the book you want, you'll stop immediately. So that is exactly what break will do in the programming. So when break executes inside of a loop, the loop will stop completely and the else block will also be not executed. Because as you know, in for loop or while loop, so what happens is the else block will be executed only if your for loop or while loop has been done normally without any break. So if there is a break inside of that for loop or if statement or while loop, so when there is a break, the loop will stop completely. So that is why as the loop has been stopped abruptly, else will not be executed. So you need to remember that. And here we have the syntax of break. So inside of a for loop, I've been using this. So this is a control variable inside of a iterable object. So here I've given a if condition. So if this condition will become true, the break will be executed. So once break, if this condition becomes true and break will be executed, it will come out of the loop completely. So this else will not be printed anymore. And this for loop else also won't be printed. It will just come out of the loop. And here we have the while loop and there's a condition. So when this condition is true, it will start looping. And inside of this if condition, we have a condition. So inside of this, we have the break statement. So if this statement becomes true, it will directly execute break statement and it will come out of the loop. Otherwise, if this condition is false, what happens is else will be executed. So till this condition will become true, the loop will, the conditional statements will be going on. And once this test condition becomes true inside of this if condition, when if there is a break here, the loop will stop abruptly and it will terminate the execution part. So when break statement is executed, the else part for or while loop will not execute. So if there are any else parts inside of this, like for this for loop, if there are any else blocks, or this for this while loop, if there are any else blocks, those won't be executed. So if this condition is false, obviously this else will be executed, but the else for this while or the else block for this for will not be executed because due to break, they will be stopped. Now let's understand this with the code. So first we have a string S. So this string consists of Nextera space Unitick. So what's happening here is we have a for loop. So the for val in S. So in a string, you can access character by character, right? So when you're accessing character by character, so the val in string will access the letters one by one. So next era space Unitick. So this val control variable, loop control variable will access the characters one by one. So first it will take n value. So val will be equal to n first. Okay. So first value equals to n and it will print with a tab space. It will print the value of which is inside of the val variable. So let me just run this so I can explain the output. So here, so what happening here is first it will loop through each of the character inside of the string. That is, first it will print n, and then it will print e, and then print next x t e r a, and then it will print all the others. If I give just normal for loop, it will print all the values one by one by accessing the character by character, right? Let's say I've given a condition such that when the val variable is equal to the character h, here h is there, right? So it will break. So if you see here, all the values from first value will be equal to n. And if it will check the value that is the condition here. So if val equal to h, is val equal to h? No. So as this condition is false, break will not be executed and it will print the other statement, that is print tab space the val. So n will be printed and then it will move on. So as this is done, it will again go to the for loop and it will check the next value. So next we have the value e. So value will be representing e now. Val variable will be representing e. So it will check again in the condition. So if val equal to h. So is it equal to h? No, it is not. It is equal to e. So this statement will be false again and it will not execute the block of statements inside of this if. So the other statements in this for loop will be printed, that is tab space. It will print the value of val variable, that is e. In the same way, it will keep on going to the all the values in your string s, that is Nextera Unitech. And when it reaches h, so when the value is equal to h, what happens is the if condition will be checked inside of this for loop. So if condition will be checked and if val equal to h, it will check. So val equal to h right now. So in the condition, it will check the h equals to h. So as this is true, the if condition will become true and break will be executed. So this break is present inside of this if, right? So as this condition is true, the block of statements in this if condition will become executed and break will be executed. So it will directly come out of the loop and it will not print anymore. So after coming out of the loop, so this loop is done here and the other statements in this program, that is the line, is printed here. So that is why h is not printed here. And let's see if we can do with other variable or the other value, let's say x. So this time when my value is equal to x, I want to break the loop. So if you see here, first value will be accessing the character n. So when n is there, it will check the condition if condition. So is n equal to x? No, it's not. So this is false. So it will not be printed and it will print the statement. That is with a tab space, it will print the value of val variable, that is n. So it will print that. So after printing n, it will move on to the next character, that is e. So value will be equal to e right now. And inside, when it moves to this loop conditions, so it will have a condition that is val equal to x. So is e equal to x? No, right? So this is false. So this won't be executed and it will print the value. Now it will move on to the next character, that is x. So here value will be equal to x. So it will check is value equal to x. So as the value equal to x, this condition will be true, right? So as this condition is true, the if statements will be executed, that is break. So here the break statement will be executed and it will break the loop. So as the loop is broken, so this next statements won't be printed and it will come out of this loop completely. And if there are any else statements also, those won't be printed. And after coming out in my program, I have the other statements aligned. So this line will be printed as usual. So this way the break will work. And then we have a list. So this list consists of all the integer variables, integer values, or strings. So what happens here is I wrote a for loop or for else loop in which we have a condition that when the value will be equal to Python, capital P, Y, T, H, O, N in small cases. So when the value will be equal to Python, the loop will be broken. So that is my condition. If it is not, it can print the value and then the other statements will be printed. So first in my list, we have all these values. So first value will be representing 10. So val in list. So for val control variable in the list, that is this first val will be representing the value 10. So value equal to 10 right now. So it will enter this loop and it will check the if condition. So if val equal to Python. So is val equal to Python? No, right? So this will be false and this break statement won't be executed and it will move on to the other statements, that is print with a tab space, it will print the value. So that is tab space, it will print the value 10 and then it will again move on to the for loop and it will val will move on to the next value, that is 20. So 20 will also be printed in the same way and 30 will be printed as well after checking this condition. And then it will move on to the val will move on to the value of Python. So after completing these four and printing all those four, it will move on to Python. So val equal to Python right now. So as you can see, val is equals to Python. And when it enters this loop, if val equal to Python. So as those values will be matched, so the statements inside of this if will become executed because this condition is true. So break will be executed. And as break has been executed, this won't be printing the other remaining statements inside of this loop and directly the loop will be terminated and it will come out of the loop. That is the for loop. And as it has been terminated due to the break statement, the else block also won't be executed. So as it came out of the whole loop completely, so the other statements in our program is print end of the program. So that has been printed. So other values won't be printed anymore because the loop has been terminated from the Python value. So this way break will work. So now let us know about the continue statement. So continue statements are used to skip the current iteration and move on to the next iteration in the loop. So continue statements, what they'll do is they will skip the current iteration and move on to next iteration. So continue statement will help us do that. So unlike break will completely stop the loop completely, right? So what continue does is it will skip only one iteration when the condition will become true if we use a if else block. So it will skip only one iteration and it will continue the loop. So imagine a teacher checking your assignments. So if one student forgot his or her assignment, teacher will simply skip the student and he will move on to the next one, right? So in the same way, the checking process still will continue even if one student forgot his assignment. So that behavior is similar to the continue statement. So they will only skip this current iteration and he will move on to the next iteration. So let's look at the code. So here we have a string that is s equal to NEUT. So that is my string. So the condition here is when the value, so the if value equal to u, then we will skip that and it will continue with the other values. So if you see here, so this is my program. So what happened here is s is equal to NEUT. So for val is my control variable. So val will be representing or accessing each character in my string, that is NEUT. So first val will represent n. And when entering the loop, val is equal to n, right? So it will check in this condition. If val is equal to u, so n equal to u will be checked. So as this is false, so this condition will become false and it will not execute the statements inside of this if condition. And it will come and execute the other statements, that is a tab space, and it will print the value of val, that is val, that is n. So n is printed with a tab space, n is printed. Now again it will move on to the for loop, and now val will be representing the value e, the character e. Now it will check again. So is e equal to u? So is e equal to u? No, right? So that will be false. So as that is false, the if condition won't be executed. So the block of statements won't be executed here, and other statements in the loop will be executed. That is a tab space and e, that is the value, will be printed. And now the val will be representing the character u. The val will be representing the character u, and the if condition will be checking the val equal to u or not. So here as u equal to u, so that will be true. So this will be true. So this will be true. So that is why here the if condition becomes true. And the statements inside of this if condition will become executed. So that is continue will be executed. So this will skip this iteration and the other statements won't be printed. That is the other statements won't be executed. So you won't be printed. And then again, due to this continue, it will move on to the next iteration. That is for val, val will be representing the t value right now. So due to the continue, this other statements will be skipped in this loop, in this iteration, third iteration, and u will not be printed, that is why. And the fourth iteration, the value will be representing t. So val equal to t right now. So it will check again. So t equal to u will be false. So as this is false, continue won't be executed and print t will be done. So with the tab space, t is printed. So in this way, you can use the continue statement. And if you see here, this is the program where we have a s equal to the string Python in all capital letters and for val in s. So each character will be accessed one by one. And if your character is y or if your character is h, then you'll skip that iteration. Otherwise, you will be printing other all letters or the characters using this print function. So if you see here, first it is P. So val will be representing P and it will check the condition. As it is not true, so it is false and it will print P. Now moving on, we have Y. So here val equal to Y will be true or val equal to H will be false. So at least if at least one of them is true, so the output will be true, right? So the condition due to or, if at least one is true, the output will be true. So as this condition is true, we'll skip that iteration and will not print that because we have skipped it. And other all statements, whatever they are there, they will not be printed in this iteration. And again, it will move on to the for loop again. And now val will represent t. So t does not, so here condition will become false for t and t will not be printed. And after that, the val will be representing the O character. So O character, when val is O, this condition will become false only because O is neither Y or H. So that will be printed using this print function. And moving on, we have Sorry, I've missed the H. So when it is H also, the value when it is H, that will also be skipped. And when the values are Y and H, or the characters are Y and H, those will be skipped. So if you see, the Y and H have been skipped and other all are printed when they are given as the other statements in the loop. In this way, you can use the continue statement. And moving on, we have a list here. And when the values, so here what we are doing is we are filtering out the negative and positive values. That is, we are skipping the negative values and only printing the positive values. So if you see here in this for block, first value will be representing the character, the value 100. And in the list 100, it will check 100 is less than equal to 0 or not. As this is false, the continue won't be executed and it will print the other statements in the for loop, that is print val. So 100 is printed. Now it is 200. So val will represent 2 minus 200. And as val, which is minus 200, is less than 0, so here condition will be true. And as condition is true, this continue will be executed and it will skip this iteration. So other statements like print val won't be printed and it will move on to the for again. And here now val will be representing minus 300. Again, the condition here, if condition will become true, and that value will be skipped due to the continue statement. And the other statements like print val won't be executed and it will again move on to the for loop. And now val equal to 150, that is the next value. So here condition became false. So continue won't be print executed and it will print the value 150. In the same way, all the negative values are skipped and positive values are printed in this way. So after completing of this for loop, as the loop hasn't been broken and it just skipped the iterations, right? It hasn't been broken. So that is why the else block will be printed. That is, I am from else block of for loop. So that will be printed. Else block won't be printed only if your for loop has been broken due to the break statement. So in the same way here, we have a we have a list which consists of negative and positive values. So we are filtering the positive values again using the while else loop. And inside, when we have a while loop, first we need to initialize the value I equal to 0. And then we have to have a condition that is I less than length of list. So we'll stop at the element index, that is the list length minus 1. So to stop at this element, we need to give I less than length of list. So here length of list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So when I will be less than 9, the statements will be, the loop will be stopped. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So till 8, we need to continue the loop. So that is why I've given I less than 9. So I values from 0 to 8 will be done. So here we have a if condition, LST of I, that is LST of 0, that is the first element we are accessing, that is less than equal to 0 or not. That is the negative element or not. If it is a negative element, we will increment the I value and we will skip it. So we will increment the I value to 1 and we will continue will be executed. That is, we'll skip if it is a negative number. But 100 here is not a negative number. So if condition will be false here and else will be print executed, that is print 100. 100 will be printed and I will be executed. And then as I will be updated to 1. So now I from 0 to 1, it will be updated. And after the updation, it will again check the next value. So LST of 1 will be minus 200. It will check if minus 200 is less than equal to 0. So as this is true, first I will be incremented. That is, I will be incremented from 2 to 3. And the continue statement will be executed. That is, it will skip the negative elements. So in this way, if it is a positive element, it will be printed and I will be incremented. If it is a negative element, it will be incrementing the I to the next value such that we can move to the next element, and it will skip the negative element using the continue statement. So after completing all of these, as there is no breakage in the loop, what happens is else block will be printed. That is, I am from else block of while loop. So else won't be executed only if your loop has been broken. And then we have the third statement, that is pass. So this pass statement is nothing but a null statement. So pass statement is called as a null statement in Python. That means it does nothing when executed. It is just like a placeholder in a statement. So where you didn't write any statement syntactically you want to write it, but still you've not written any statements there. There you can use this pass statement as a placeholder. So sometimes when Python syntax requires a block of code, but we are not ready to write the code yet, we can use a pass statement there. So it will work as a placeholder during development, and it will also used in creating empty functions and empty classes. And also to avoid the indentation errors, you can use this pass. So the syntax is you can use a if condition and you can just write a pass statement. So if you see here, we have an example n equal to 10, and if n is greater than 5, we want to execute some statements, but we didn't write that yet. So we've given pass. And else the number is small. So when I execute all of this, there won't be any output because I've just given pass here. So it does nothing. And you can also use it in an empty function. So when you want to create some function, you need to have a keyword def and the function name. And instead of that, I can give some pass. So function is defined, but no implementation has been done yet. That is, there are no statements inside of this function to execute. In the future, we will be entering the statements, but right now there is no statements inside of this function. So if I try to do this, n is 10. So 10 greater than 5 will be true. But inside of that, we don't have any statements and we just have a placeholder. So this does nothing and it will not give any output for me. In the same way, if I created some function, so function is created, but there is no implementation of that function. And here we have a for loop. So for I in range of 5. 5 means the values will be from 0 to 4, right? So the range of values will be from 0 to 4. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a false block. So if I equal to 3, we'll just use the pass. So this does nothing. And if it is any other number other than 3, we will print that number. So that is why when it is 0, so this will be false and else will be executed. That is print I is executed. So 0 is printed. And then when it is 1, so 1, this condition will be false and it will be printed. 2, so condition will be false and it will be printed. So when it is 3 exactly, the condition will become true. But as we don't have any other statements here except pass, so nothing will be done. So 3 is not printed here. And then when we move on to I equal to 4, so this condition will become false and else will be executed. That is print of I, 4 will be printed. So this way you can use a pass statement as a placeholder. So here as well, if n is greater than 0, I've given pass. N is greater than 0, that is 10 is greater than 0 only, but we've given only a placeholder and no statement, so nothing is printed. And after completing of this if else block, the other statements are program completed. So that is what has been printed here. And then we can also create some empty functions. And these in this function, there are no statements, so nothing will be printed for this. And the other statements in the program, that is function defined successfully, has been printed. So that is function has been created and it is defined, but there is no implementation of that. And then here we have a empty class. So to create empty class also, we can use the pass statement, that is a class of student. inside of this we have a past statement, so it does nothing. So when I've called the class, we'll know about the class and functions later on. Just listen to this. So when I've given s equal to student, so student class has been called, but there are no statements inside of this to execute on print, so it does nothing. And the other statements class created successfully will be printed. So that's it for today, guys. We have learned about all the flow control statements by today. So we've completed the conditional statements and looping statements and miscellaneous flow control statements by today. And from tomorrow, we will learn about the functions and then modules, packages, and other libraries in Python. So I want you guys to just note this practice problems and try it with all the loops and control statements you've learned. That is the conditional or miscellaneous or loops. So this is the practice problems for miscellaneous control statements, and you can also note this down or take a screenshot of it to complete these statements or these practice problems using all the flow control statements. Use all the topics till now what we have learned and try to solve these problems. And where tomorrow we'll learn about the functions and in depth about the functions. So that's it for today. Please note down these problems, and if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. And if you like our content, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. And if you want to visit the previous videos, you can go to the Python for AI 2026 playlist and you can watch the videos from day 1 to day 14 and you can revise them. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for listening. We will meet again tomorrow. So see you in the next class. Thank you.